Ash and smoke hung thick in the shattered sky as the ruins of the alien colony smoldered, a bitter wind carrying the scent of burned metal, scorched stone, and loss. She crouched behind the jagged remains of a collapsed observation tower, knees drawn close to her chest, long black hair plastered against her face, streaked with soot and tears. Her blue skin shimmered faintly in the glow of distant fires, elegant white horns arched back from her head catching the light like blades of ivory, a crown of resilience she no longer felt she deserved. Her torn short combat gear clung to her athletic curves, bruised and scratched from battles. She had survived only because survival had been the only option, never the choice. Each shallow breath she drew seemed a struggle, a rhythm set by exhaustion, fear, and the quiet ache of hopelessness. Around her, the ruins whispered reminders of everything she had lost: family, friends, a home she could never return to, and a life that had been defined by chains, obedience, and war. She hugged her knees tighter, hiding the trembling of her thick thighs and the rise and fall of her chest, as if trying to make herself small, invisible, inconsequential. Then she saw him. Through the haze of fire and smoke, a human stepped carefully across the fractured metal and debris, armor scorched and dented, rifle slung loosely at his side. His gaze was steady, unflinching, yet gentle, focused entirely on her. He paused several meters away, giving her space, letting her see that he posed no threat. She flinched, fear rising in her chest like a wave, but she did not run, because the war had taught her to survive, not to trust, and yet something in his stance, in the calm certainty of his eyes, made her pause. He knelt slowly, lowering himself to her level, hands visible, empty, open, a gesture that felt almost foreign to her, a language of trust she had long forgotten. Her luminous silver-tinted eyes darted from his face to his hands, searching for hidden motives, for any sign of betrayal. But he gave none. "You're safe," he said softly, voice carrying through the wind, steady and reassuring. "I won't hurt you." The words were simple, yet they carried weight that shattered the walls she had built around herself. Her lips parted as if to speak, but no sound came. Her mind was too heavy with disbelief, too tangled with the memories of chains, war, and betrayal. Her fingers brushed the cold metal beneath her, as if holding on to the last bit of reality she knew. Slowly, hesitantly, she extended a trembling hand toward him. When their palms touched, it was a connection beyond words, a spark of warmth that cut through the chill of the ruined city and the years of pain she had carried. He felt it too, a resonance of life, fragile yet unbroken, binding them together in that fleeting, impossible moment. She whispered, barely audible, that she had nothing left, that she was nothing, a prisoner, a weapon, a shadow of the girl she once was. He shook his head gently, brushing ash from her hair, letting her see the sincerity in his eyes. "You are more than that," he said. "You are alive. You are free. And I see you." The words struck her deeper than any weapon ever could. Slowly she rose, knees trembling but unbowed, every motion a test of strength she thought she had lost. Her horns caught the dim glow from the fires as she looked at him, searching for deceit and finding none. For the first time in years, she felt the strange, fragile thing called hope. We moved together through the ruins, debris crunching beneath our feet, ash drifting like a slow snow across the battlefield. She stayed close, her hand in mine, her breathing still shallow but steadier with each step. Every once in a while, she glanced back, as if expecting the hunters from her own kind to emerge from the smoke, to drag her back into chains and obedience. But we pressed on, weaving between broken walls and crumbling stairways, finding shelter in the remnants of a collapsed transport hub. Inside, the air was cooler, tinged with the metallic scent of rust and old machinery, and for a moment, the world outside seemed suspended, giving us a fragile reprieve. She sank to the ground, exhaustion overtaking her as she pressed her forehead against my shoulder, long black hair cascading down over her arms. Her blue skin glowed softly in the dim light, and her horns reflected tiny flecks of firelight from outside. I knelt beside her, brushing the soot from her face, tracing the line of her jaw with careful fingers, trying to convey the message that she was no longer alone, that someone now believed in her, not because she was useful, but because she was herself. She whispered words I barely understood, fragments of alien speech, confessions of fear, shame, and disbelief that anyone could care. I didn't need to understand them fully. Her tone, her body language, the quiver of her lips, and the tremor in her fingers said it all. She was alive, yes, but more importantly, she was choosing life again. The wind outside shifted, carrying the distant echo of collapsing structures and the faint hum of approaching enemies. Her eyes widened, fear threatening to overwhelm her fragile hope, and she clutched my hand tighter, pressing herself closer. I raised my rifle, scanning the shadows, every movement precise, protective, unwavering. Sparks from distant fires reflected across her horns and hair, creating a halo of light that made her seem almost ethereal. A creature of beauty forged through suffering, finding courage in the presence of someone who would never abandon her. When the danger passed, we stayed pressed together, her head resting lightly against my chest, long fingers tracing tentative patterns across my armor. She spoke then, not in words, but through a look, a tremble, a subtle smile that said everything she couldn't yet voice aloud. That life could still have meaning, that freedom was more than the absence of chains, and that hope was worth holding on to. I held her close, feeling the rhythm of her heartbeat against mine, a fragile pulse of life that had survived fire, war, and captivity, now beating in tandem with my own. As dawn broke over the smoldering citadel, the pale light cast long shadows across the ruins, highlighting her blue skin, the gentle curve of her horns, and the soft wave of her black hair. She stood beside me, fatigue etched into her every movement, yet her posture spoke of newfound strength. Torn combat gear fluttered slightly in the morning breeze, her curvy, athletic form a testament to both resilience and vulnerability. The first rays of sunlight glinted off the ash-laden horizon, bathing her in a glow that seemed almost divine, and I realized then that the chains that had defined her life were gone. Not broken by force, but by recognition, trust, and the simple, unwavering presence of someone who refused to let her fade into despair. And in that golden moment, amidst the ruin, the ash, and the distant cries of a broken world, she looked at me and smiled. A small, hesitant, luminous smile that carried the weight of all she had lost and the fragile promise of all she could still gain. I understood, fully and irrevocably, that she had become more than a survivor. She had become a reason to live, a symbol that even in the darkest corners of the universe, hope could exist, could endure, and could change everything.